The next thing that I'm going to do with this project is I'm going to organize my work using the level manager, and then I'm going to use the drafting tools to verify that the two-dimensional geometry of the part is correct. Before I create the levels, I'm going to come up to the View tab, and I'm going to turn the gnomons off. I'll select the Show Gnomons icon, and that'll toggle off the visibility of the coordinate system. From here, I'm going to activate or make my level manager visible. So I went to View. In the Managers field, I selected Levels, and that brings up the level manager. I'm going to create 6 levels. Level 1, I'm going to name it Solid Support Geometry. To create a second level, I'm going to select the plus sign, add a new level, left click on it, and then in the name field, double click, and then you can enter the new name. This will be called Solid Model. To create a third level, I'll select the plus sign again. To name it, I'll double click in the name field. I'll call this Wireframe from Solid. I'll create a fourth level. Click the plus sign. Double click in the name field. We'll call this Dimensions. To create a fifth level, select the plus sign. Double click in the name field. I'll call this Points. And the sixth level, I'll call this Material. I'm going to make the dimensions level the active level, so I'll select next to the number for the dimensions level. You'll see a check up here next to the number. That indicates that it is the active level. Anything that I create at this point will be placed on the active level. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'm going to select the wireframe geometry color to red. I want some contrast between my dimensions and my solid support geometry. So I'm going to change the color of the dimensions to red. I'm going to use the drafting tool. And I'm going to dimension the part like I see it on the blueprint. I've got a 6-inch overall length, 1.88 height. I've got some dimensions positioning the drilled and counterbored holes, and then I've got a call out for the drilled and counterbored hole. I'm not concerned about the dimensions looking exactly like the blueprint. I'm just using the dimensions or the drafting tools in Mastercam to verify that my geometry is correct. So I'll go to Drafting. I'm using the Smart Dimension tool. I'll select the bottom horizontal line to dimension the overall length. I can see that the text is a little large, so I'll come over to the parameters for the dimension. And I'm going to set the height of the dimensions to 0.15. And then I'll set the number of decimal places to 3. I'll place the 6-inch dimension off of the part. I'll then select the left vertical line, and I'll pull the dimension off of the part. To dimension the position of this hole, I'll start by selecting the left vertical line, and then I'll select the center of the hole. I'll place the dimension off of the part. To dimension it along the y-axis, I'll select the bottom horizontal line, and then I'll select the center of the hole again. And then I'll pull this dimension off of the part. The spacing from center to center, so I'll select the center of this hole, and then the center of this hole. I can pull the dimension down here, 3.875. And then the last two dimensions that I'll check with, the diameter of the counterbored hole and the diameter of the hole that's going through the part. Everything looks correct. I'll exit the drafting tool. I can now move forward and create my solid model. I'll make the solid model level the active level. I'll make the dimensions level invisible. And when I start giving a two-dimensional sketch depth in the Z, I like to look at it from an isometric view. So right click on your screen and from the flyout menu select isometric. I can roll my scroll wheel to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to start by extruding the outside rectangle a distance of 1.25 in the negative Z. To do that, I'll go to the Solids tab. I'll use the Extrude tool. The chaining dialog box appears. Select one of the entities that represents the outside profile of the part. I'll select this line here. All connected entities become selected. From here I'll select OK. And we'll see the default extrusion length and direction. The default direction is a positive Z. I would like to keep my 2D geometry on the top of the part, so I'll change the direction. And I would also like to set the distance to 1.25. Select Enter, and you see the preview on your screen. At this point, I'm done with the Extrude tool. I'll select OK. I'm now going to use the Hole tool underneath the Solids tab to create the drilled and counterbored holes. I'll select the hole icon. I'll come down to this field here. For the type, I'm going to set it to counterbore. For the diameter, click in the diameter field, 17 divided by 32. I'll select Enter. The counterbore diameter, if I reference the blueprint again, is going to be 0.813 by 0.6 deep. So for the counterbore diameter, 0.813, Enter. Then for the depth, 0.6, Enter. For the depth, I want the drilled hole to go all the way through the part, so I'm going to select Through All. So once we've defined the drilled and counterbored hole, I can come back up to the position, and then I'm going to use Add Position icon. So I left click on the Add Position icon. I'll position my cursor in the graphics area, and I'm going to let my cursor lock onto one of the circles. Left click, you see a center point appear. Then I'll come over to one of these circles and left click. You'll see another center point appear. Once I hit Enter, you'll see those two positions appear in this field. In the graphics area, if I tumble my view, you can see the drilled and counterbored holes. From here, I'll select OK. I'll save my work again. I'll look at it from an isometric view, so I right click on my screen, select isometric. At this point, I'm going to turn the solid support geometry level off. I'm going to make the wireframe from solid level the active level, so I'll select next to the number for level 3. You'll see the check appear indicating that it is the active level. Once again, I'm going to change the wireframe color. I'll change it to this color here. And I'm going to use a tool, Create Curve All Edges. You'll find it underneath the wireframe tab. And then in the curves region, curve all edges. Select the curve all edges. And we're being prompted to select what we want to make the curves on. I'm going to triple click the solid body. The entire part becomes selected, and then I'll select OK. Make sure you're set to a 3D construction plane, and you should see wireframe geometry being created on all edges of the part. I'll select OK to exit the tool. If I turn the solid model level to invisible, you can now see that I have a 3D representation of my part built from wireframe geometry. Right click Isometric. I'll make the solid model level visible again. I'll save my work. We are now ready to select a machine definition.